Recently, I made an episode about how to never write notes again. So using some clever software on your web browser that listens to your audio consultation with you and your patient and uses AI to actually make your notes. So you don't have to then be there typing away, or your nurse doesn't have to type every risk and benefit that you discuss as part of the consultation. You can also create letters to referring dentists and patient report based on that consultation as well. So it's using the latest tools in AI and audio recording to reduce the stress of your nurse and the dentist. But then you guys started messaging me saying, Jazz, which other softwares are you using? And I was like, wow, okay, there is a couple that I use and a couple that I've seen and tested, and they're great and I'm happy to talk about them. But because I'm not a principal, I'm an associate, I think that would be an injustice if I did this episode alone. So in today's Ask Jazz, we're covering which are some of the best softwares out there in various different domains: communication, CRM, which is a new word for me, so I've got our guest Prav Solanki on, and I'll explain what that means in a moment. But also, what are we doing for like smile mock-ups, and of course our patient management system, which I don't know. I'm not a buyer of that. Your principles of practice supplies your practice management system. That could be Dentally, SOE, Exact, CareStack, whatever it is. So we talk a little bit about that. So the kind of themes that we discussed today are the different softwares that we're using, that you can use, some that I've tried, some that Prav has tried. And so I totally appreciate that we haven't covered every single software out there. But this is just based on our experiences, and I'd love to hear more from you. So if you're on Protrusive Guidance watching this, comment below, or if you're on YouTube, for example, or if you're listening on Spotify, then maybe just reach out and say, have you tried this software or that software? And the best place for that would be Protrusive Guidance, our own community, the home of the nicest and geekiest dentists in the world. So just to give you a little flavor of what we're talking about today, CRM, which is a customer relationship management software, which for me, like when Prav told me that he owns a CRM software, it went way over my head. I had no idea what it meant. And so he explained to me it's like a patient growth machine or a patient nurturing machine, because what I learned was, and I learned this a few years ago, but even then I think lots of associates, when I say lead, what is a lead? A lot of associates who are so into their clinical dentistry, they'd, get some sort of a wire and be like, oh, this is a lead. A lead is someone who's inquired, but not yet a patient. Do you see what I mean? So as associates, I sometimes think that we don't know about this business side. So that's why we wanted to cover a software that people use, practices use to manage and nurture leads. So these are inquiries who are not yet a patient. And so Prav's the expert in that. He owns and runs LeadFlo, so he talks about that. Then we talk about the different patient management softwares, and then my favorite software at the moment, which is digital TCO. We talk a little bit about how I'm using it in practice. And then a favorite of mine and Prav's, not specifically a dental software, but we love using Loom. Like we previously spoke about this, the power of using Loom in videos that you send to your patients, videos that you send to your team members. So we'll talk a lot about that as well. And some of the latest softwares like Pearl AI, which is like for radiographs, your radiographs in color, which I think is a great communication tool. There's also Chairside, which comes highly recommended. I've seen a live demo of this. This was pretty cool. Again, some of these softwares I use, some I don't, but between me and Prav, we have enough to talk about it. And a recent one called Smile Cloud, which my prosthodontist friend Ricky Bhopal, ex-guest on the show, the episode we did with Ricky was productivity with a prosthodontist, and I tell you, Ricky's a very productive guy. So there's all sorts that we're covering today, and usually on these Ask Jazz episodes, I don't give a protrusive dental pearl, but I'm still going to give one in this one anyway. And this is a non-clinical one. This is, if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. Let me say that again. If you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. So really, if you listen to this entire episode and you think that actually I could use that in my practice, actually this makes sense, or I would like to use digital TCO, or I would like to try a CRM system or patient growth machine, but then you just leave it as a thought, then whatever results you're getting at the moment, that's what you'll get. And if you're happy with that, great. But if you want more, if you think that your life could be enhanced, if you think that your workflows, your systems could be enhanced, then I challenge you to pick one of these softwares, or pick a few of these softwares and see if it can actually add quality to your life, actually give you more time, give you more results, give you more bottom line, wherever it could be that you're seeking. So don't just be a passive listener, be someone who takes action and tries to better themselves or their practice. Just before we join Prav, the choreography of this episode ends up being so that the first half of the episode, we're talking about LeadFlo and a patient nurturing machine. And then the second half, we talk about all the other different software. So see where you are and what you want to gain from this episode, and feel free to navigate around. I will be putting the links in the show notes. And as always, I'll be very clear about any financial interest I have in any of the softwares, and which ones I don't have any financial interest. You can always expect that from me. And what I mean by financial interest, like things like digital TCO, I have a small financial interest because it's an affiliate link, but it's an affiliate link that gives you 50% off. So if you prefer to pay full price and not get the extended trial, be my guest, right? So I'm trying to help you here as well. Anyway, let's join the main episode. Let's hope you learn about some softwares that we use. Prav Solanki, welcome back to the Protrusive podcast. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Full of beans. Overworked.
This is way past your bedtime, man. This is way like you are someone who those who don't know, like you are like, for me, I see like if it's 9 p.m. like, whoa, I mean, I can't message Prav, he'll be asleep, he'll see us in the morning kind of thing. But I know you wake up mega early, and I just want to say again, I say it's time and time again when I see you in the podcast, absolute inspiration to me, my life, or the way I think. You've molded so much of it. So for those few people out there who for some reason don't already listen to the Dental Leaders podcast, please do if you don't already. Our good friends Payman and Prav, and who haven't heard about all the wonderful things you do, tell us about yourself, Prav.
God, what do you want to know? So I think I did a summary last time, right? But just a little bit about me. I guess we help dental professionals, dental businesses on the business side of things just grow both personally, professionally, through marketing, through consultancy, through advice, through web, tech stuff or whatever, right? So that's one hat. I do, like this year, I said to myself, I want to develop my public speaking career more. So I've been doing a lot more of that. And even though at the beginning of this year, Jazz, I set myself one of these goals and I said, I'm going to say no more. Right?
I remember having this chat with you about just saying no. I remember vividly.
And I said to myself, I'm going to say no more, right? But I feel like I just keep saying yes. And I'm saying yes to the stuff that I want to develop from a skill set point of view, right? So any public speaking gigs I've got, whether they here or overseas and stuff, I've just said yes, and then we'll just figure it out, right? So there's that. And then the other side of things is the software side of the business. So I've been sort of doubling down deep on developing LeadFlo, which is I'll say it because you've said this to me once before. Jazz, you once came to me and made this wild statement, and I thought you were talking shit, but you proved me wrong. And you came to, you know exactly what I'm going to say. But you came to say, I've created OBAB, which is the best occlusion course on the planet. And then when I had other people verify it, like the Tiff Qureishis of this world and other clinicians whose opinion I respect, as well as yours, Chaz, and they were like, this is the real deal, man. This is amazing. And then we've just gone on to prove it, right? Delegate after delegate after delegate, the feedback, it's phenomenal. So as well as you saying I'm an inspiration to you, you're a massive inspiration to me, mate. And to see what you're creating out there and the community and the mentoring stuff, and you just don't seem to be stopping, right? And being surrounded by like-minded people who are just sort of growth mindset motivated is an amazing thing. Yeah, so when we're sat here at 9:30, feels like I'm burning the midnight oil because I've been up since the morning. Yeah, it's great to know that we're sharing that. So it's, the best dental CRM software on the planet. Yeah, and I truly believe this. I'm incredibly biased, but for me, the patient journey and every step of that patient journey, from the moment that patient experiences some marketing and inquires to the individual communications that happen along that journey to the point where that patient says, I want to think about it, or they respond, or they don't respond, and how we get them to respond. The psychology of all that is what I built within the best dental CRM system in the world, right? When a patient comes to you, right, and you try, and you, let's say you sell them a $3,000, $5,000, £10,000 treatment plan, whatever that value is, right? Often, in many cases, patients need to borrow money to buy our stuff, right? And so if we have to borrow money to buy stuff, whatever it is, a car, a holiday, some fancy items, whatever that luxury item is, yeah, thinking process takes a long time, yeah? And for some people, some of us, we're impulse buyers, we're fast lane buyers, and we will buy today, right?
That's me. And probably you.
Yeah. No, in some cases, it depends. It depends on the item, right? Depends on the item. But some of us will take months, if not years, to make that decision, and a lot of our patients do. And for those of you who've had a consultation with a patient, and that patient came in, and then a year later, the patient just pops up out of the word woodworking. Where the hell did you come from, right? They just needed time to make that decision, right? So what I've done is I've taken a piece of software and baked into it that entire patient decision-making process and appreciated the sales process for what it is. So what we need to do is increase the probability of the patient picking the phone up post-inquiry. Mm-hmm. So you could be anyone, right? So when I say do the telephone follow-up, and I run, the phone school course or my TCO course, right? And the core principles of what I say here is this. Half your follow-up calls do from a landline. The other half do from a practice mobile. You increase the probability of getting hold of them.
This is, I mean, I never even thought about this, but obviously this is the kind of stuff you deal with day in day out. I never even thought about this, but it makes so much sense. And obviously this is what you've baked into LeadFlo. Now, embarrassingly, again, when we started talking about, so the whole origin of this episode is a lot of people ask me, Jazz, you're into your software, that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah,
of course.
And I just, because I'm not a practice principal and you own practices and you are so like in the software development and the website development space, and you guys do websites and stuff for dentists. And here I am, and I can talk about some clinical softwares that I like and that kind of stuff. But I feel as though what we wanted to cover was starting from the lead, not a patient. So, a lot of dentists don't even know what a lead means. I didn't know what lead meant until like 4 years ago or something, right? And now, and that I learned from Hap Gill at Richmond. So lead is someone who inquires as a potential patient saying, hey, you know what, I'm interested in Invisalign. So then I learned, okay, what a lead was. And so that's it, basically. As an associate, I'm like, I'm busy doing my dentistry. I want to get patients in, but I don't think of it as leads. But when you're a practice owner, you really have to see, who is a lead, who is a patient, what happens after the patient finishes the journey. There's a lot of learning to happen as a practice owner, which I think associates perhaps lack sometimes.
Do you know what? There's an interesting point you've just made there, right? And you've totally dehumanized the patient. Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And that's something that I like to try and bring back into our communication, right? Because often we think of patients as leads, as inquiries, as whatever, right? But actually, these leads are human beings who've got these problems, whether it's crooked teeth or missing teeth, and they may have aesthetic or functional problems or whatever, right? It's okay from a business point of view. We think about it and we're like, okay, we've generated 50 leads this month. How many of these leads converted into consultations? How many of these consultations converted into active treatment? And how many of these consultations didn't convert and were lost, right? But at no point during that journey have we humanized it, right? When we're thinking about leads, I need to understand from a clinician point of view, what do you offer? What's your patient journey? So if you want me to market implants for you, I'll ask you this question. And a dentulous patient walks in, or a loose denture wearer walks in, right? What's your offering? And some people will say this to me, and I might be quite rude about it, but some people will say this to me. All I'm for, full arch, implant dentistry. A dentulous patient walks in, and do you know what that means to me? If a loose denture walks into your practice, a loose denture wearer walks into your practice, my offering to you is £30,000 or get that out of my practice. It's that or nothing, right? And so I look at that and think, well, there's, at least in my practice, there's 2 stages before that. And the first one is, hey, that denture you've got, we can make that look more like real teeth and we can make it fit better. And so we can replace your current situation with a better current situation. We won't solve every problem you've got. Then we can take that loose denture, we can fire some bolts in it, and it can clip in and clip out, and you need to remove them at night, but now you can chew into your steak. Or we can give you something super fixed and permanent, and you don't need to take them out and clean them like your own teeth. And it's $5,000, $7,500 for the upper and lower for the implant retained, or $30,000 for the Rolls Royce, right? Now you've got choice.
And you're also able to help and serve a greater percentage of the population.
More people, yeah. And what's really interesting about that, Jazz, that the people who don't do the dentures and won't do the middle bit, in our clinic, the ones who buy the dentures come back later and upgrade to the bolts, right? So you're building, so that lead that we were talking about was a lead for a better denture. And then that lead, their lifetime value ends up becoming an implant retained denture, or eventually maybe a full arch fixed bridge solution, right? Because you've built that trust and that relationship. But patients make decisions over on the whole, the vast majority of our patients are making that decision over a long period of time. And what I mean by that is there is a point in time when that patient inquires, the lead, where they may be thinking about treatment, maybe not totally aware of what the options are, the costing or everything. And they find that out and they go away and think about it, and they may think about 6 months, 12 months, 18 months.
And again, I'm always been learning and I have so much to learn in business stuff, but you already use some words like lifetime value. Like most of them of the geeky and clinical dentists who listen and watch the Protrusive podcast are like, what does that even mean? Like all these things. When you start speaking to business owners, people who run practices and stuff, there's a whole different world out there. And so you're right. It all comes back to that kind of a mindset.
And Tiff Qureshi taught me a lot about lifetime value of patients, right? Which is that, in his practice over 15 years or 20 years, or however long he's been at Dental Elegance, right? He's been seeing patients for checkups and talks to them about the envelope function and continual movement, tooth movement and all that jazz, right? And, his cohort, his pipeline, his leads are sat in his practice all day, every day, and he's just educating them. But that first patient he saw 5 years ago came in and maybe paid 100 quid for a checkup. Let's just take an arbitrary figure, right? So that patient was worth 100 quid. And then 3 years later, for some reason, they listened to Tiff and they spent $4,000 with him on some ortho. And then they came in and said, hey, tidy the edges up or whatever. And he does some edge bonding and maybe that's another couple of grand, right? And so where the lifetime value of that patient, right? When he first came in, you think £100, right? But the lifetime value of that patient, if you look after them, is the multiples of the hundreds, the $4,000 they spent on the ortho, $2,000 they spent on this, the friends and family members they've now referred or dragged into the practice because they've had a great experience, right? And they've multiplied themselves.
But all of this was going to come to, I did interrupt you actually about the whole thing about when patients say, no, we think that, they can't afford it, basically. There's other factors behind it.
Now imagine you put yourself in the patient's shoes and they don't know, can you get me there? Or worse still, I was speaking to a dentist this morning who said, look, I need some help with my practice, but my practice is unique. And I said, what do you mean? He said, look, a couple of the clinicians in the practice, they're teachers in the dental world, and they do really complex treatment plans. Yeah. And this is like, you go and see this person for your perio, you go and see this person for your restorative, you go and see this person for this. I'll chuck an implant in, blah, blah, blah. It's a really complex thing, right? So when we present the treatment plans, there's a ton of different options, And the problem is we do the marketing, we get them in, not many people go ahead, So see, you don't need a marketer. I said, I'll fix you. I will literally fix your problem in a couple of hours if you just listen to what I've got to say. Simplify the choices. I've had dentists present to me treatment plans and it's got UL3, blah, 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 this tooth, this will do this, and crown and material and this. And it comes out like a Chinese takeaway menu, right? With numbers and prices against it all, right? And I just say to the guys, look, can we just break this down and say, look, we've got to do some work on your upper set of teeth, here. And we're going to do this bit first. And this bit, which includes all of this teeth, is going to be 3K, right? And then 2 months later, we're going to come back and do this one. And that lump there is 5K. And this lump here is this, right? Now you can pay each one at a different stage. You can pay for it all up front. We can do some kind of a deal, right? This is what it looks like, right? You give them that whole menu, They get to decision fatigue. They don't know what they're doing. They don't understand. They're unaware. Perhaps there's some mistrust. Perhaps that patient thinks, do I need all of this? Yeah. Do I need every little bit of this? Can I go away and just have a think about, A, B, C, D and not E, F, G? Can I get away with that piece? And patients walk away confused. And so...
What makes LeadFlo compelling for you in terms of comparing it to other patient nurturing machines out there?
So for me, I guess the key thing is that what we have done is we've essentially baked in a follow-up system that will follow every patient on for 2 years. Okay, so that the conversation I have with principals or marketers or TCOs, and the first question I'll ask them when we talk about marketing, because as you know and I know, right, marketing and sales is one unified thing, right? And when people say, hey, Prav, can you do the marketing thing for me? I say, I haven't got the silver bullet, right? We can deliver marketing campaigns. We can deliver leads or patients that have certain interests. But unless you've got your marketing A game on, what I do is not going to change your game.
Do you mean sales A game? You said marketing already, but then unless you got the sales on.
Sales, unless you've got your sales A game. Did I get my words mixed up?
We got there in the end, mate. Marketing and sales, you have to be hand in hand rather than just going for one.
I in most evenings, I'd have been snoring for at least an hour by now. So yeah, slip of the tongue, guys.
Totally.
But yeah, sales and marketing work in harmony, right? And unless you've got them both together. And I feel actually the sales piece is more important.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, did you want, because we're doing this whole thing about LeadFlo for those listening, they can see, but do you want to just maybe share the screen, show the website for LeadFlo?
Yeah, let me see. Okay. So imagine you've got some marketing activity going on and a new inquiry comes in, right? Immediately, what we want to do is for that patient to get a welcome email and an SMS. Okay. And following that over the next 10 months or so, we're going to be following up with automated communication, emails, SMS reminders, sharing before and after pictures, reviews, video testimonials, asking them for a selfie of their smile, and then even sending something called a breakup email, right? So what LeadFlo does is it takes any inquiry that has been generated through a Facebook ad, a Google ad, through your website. It integrates with all of those platforms and pulls all of those patients into one central place.
And that's like a website, right? It's like a website. It's like a dashboard.
It's a dashboard, yeah. It's a dashboard where every patient comes in individually. Mm-hmm. When you look on that dashboard, you'll say, hey, Sam Smith came from Google. He inquired today, and you can see the details of his inquiry. You'll have his name, email address, phone number, and you'll be able to see the source of the inquiry. So if you were to click on like a patient in the dashboard, you'd have the first name, last name, type of treatment they're interested in, what the lead source was, so website, Google, Facebook, etc., and then the nature of their inquiry, right? You will automatically send them an email, you will automatically send them an SMS, and from the same dashboard, instead of going to your inbox,
this is the genius bit. This is the genius bit right here, which I love. Yeah, go for it.
Instead of going to your inbox or your phone, you can just click here and send an SMS to the patient.
You have the option in the dashboard to switch between, like within one click, switch from SMS to email.
Or send them a note. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you send them an email, send them an SMS, and you can pre-make some templates. If you've got some stuff you regularly, just click it, boom, send it in, and away it goes, right? So you've got the ability to do that. But the beauty, I think, is the ease of use when it needs no training. So this says call Jack, on the dashboard it'll say call Jack about Invisalign treatment or general treatment on this number. So you ring them, you click a button, and you have to tell LeadFlo what to do next. So what happens? So if you say they did not answer the phone, for example, right? So you press next, it double checks with you. Hey, you said this guy didn't answer the phone. We'll try and call him again in 5 days' time on this date. Confirmed. As soon as you do that, that task is complete, and the patient gets an email saying, hey, Jack, I just tried to call you. Couldn't get through. I'll try you again in a few days' time. Alternatively, feel free to call me at any point, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then that patient will go into call attempts. And then you are prompted to call the patient a second time or a third time or a fourth time. So we set up these sequences so that the team follow up. And during that entire journey, until that patient books in, they will be receiving automated emails that will feel and read like they're so human that they're not written by a machine. And that's the key thing, is that we're staying in touch with this patient on the whole minimum of 2 years, right? And I think one of the key benefits of having some kind of lead nurturing or management system like this, all the communication in one place. If the patient replies to an automated email, the response comes back into here. You don't have to go hunting for it in your inbox, yeah? If the patient responds to the text message, it comes back in here. So you're going to have a two-way text message conversation with the patient. Here's a really interesting one, right? I didn't know this until it actually happened. So a lot of patients who you text, guess what their response is to the text message? Have a guess.
Like they actually text back?
Give me another response.
But would they text back or not? Or just what they would do?
Yeah. They do. They text back. Well, what do some patients do?
It's like, can you call me? Or like, can they request a phone call from there?
No, but so that includes texting back. Well, what else can they do?
Just pick up and call that number, right?
Call that number, right? Call that number, yeah? And we only discovered this. We didn't even think about when we designed the software, right? But we realized with the Twilio numbers that we buy on behalf of the client and they get programmed into this, right, is that we're getting a lot of missed calls on these Twilio numbers. And we're missing all these patient calls. So what we do now is we actually divert that mobile number that we use for text to the practice number. So if they call that number, it gets diverted and it shows on the dashboard, this patient called at this time, right? But it's really interesting because I hadn't actually thought about, nobody on the team, none of the software development team had thought about that problem. So we realized this was early on in development, right? We were getting missed calls and we thought, well, it just makes sense to have it seamlessly divert to the practice. Yeah. Just those tiny little things. And I think one of the sort of, we call it genius things or whatever that the platform does is it doesn't matter when you inquire, right? Even if you inquire at 10 o'clock at night, LeadFlo is going to send you a text message, okay? So let's say here a patient inquires at 9:35 p.m. on a Sunday, they'll get a text message back saying, hey, it's Sarah from Harley Private Dental. Thanks for inquiry. I'm back in the practice on Monday at 9 a.m. Is there a convenient time to call? 9:35 p.m. Patient texts back within 2 to 3 minutes saying, hey, I'm looking for a quote on implants in the lower jaw, 2 adjacent missing teeth near the molar area. Now, had we not engaged with that patient at 9:35 p.m., that patient would not have engaged with us. We'd have come in on Monday morning. You'd have tried to call them from a number they wouldn't recognize, and you'd have thought they were a time waster, right? Whereas instead, this patient has almost booked an appointment with you, right? We get so many immediate responses to instant text messages, automated text
It's
messages.
the mindset of the inquiry, the lead, let's call them. You know, they're in that moment. They're obviously researching. They've already made a decision. They've now made a decision to give you their phone number. That's a big transaction right there, right? And
Huge.
to do that, they're in the mode. And so to have something automated and something quick like this that they can reply to, this is where I think it's genius. So is it fair to say that in 2024, it would be ludicrous for a practice not to have some sort of CRM, patient nurturing machine? Yeah.
Like insane, right?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. If anyone is spending any kind of money on marketing, even if you're not spending any money on marketing and you've just got organic traffic coming in and organic leads making their way through your website and whatnot, yeah? Not following patients up for 2 years. If you believe me on the thesis that human beings take a long time to make decisions about buying expensive stuff, if you believe that, not having a robust, structured system to follow patients up for a period of 2 years, it's insanity. Because if we look at it from purely a business numbers and money point of view, leaving pots of cash on the table.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know the practice I work at that if they use a CRM or patient nurturing machine, so I don't know. So it's worth a conversation. But interesting thing, how I see it as an associate, right? As very much in my dentistry, and I don't have to think about these things. The practitioners just do it in the background. Is when I have forward them like information for a lead that maybe I get on Instagram or something, I send to reception, and I was like, oh, can you make a note about this or that, basically. And their standard response to reception is, well, I can't do anything until they're a patient on our system. You know, where do they store that information, right? So they're probably, I don't know how they do it, right? They have an Excel sheet or whatever, how they do it, or a little notebook, little pad. But that's very archaic.
But it goes, right? And interestingly, you mentioned that, right? So the whole Instagram piece. Do you get a lot of Instagram inquiries from patients?
Honestly, I took a sabbatical from DMs. I'm just only recently I've been replying back to the dentist on DMs, but I have probably over 100. I have over 100 requests that I just it gives me anxiety just to open it up. So I don't. But yeah, it's patience. It's patience. TMD, all sorts of stuff. But I'm just so booked up that it gives me anxiety to even open it up.
Wow. Nice problem to have, mate, because most of the time I'm speaking to dentists who would love that problem, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But the reason I mention that, right, is we do a lot of work for Rona Iskander, right? And her DMs are blowing up every day, right? And she had this problem whereby a ton of patients inquire with us every day. I want treatment with you. I'm interested in this. I'm interested in that, blah, blah, blah. And she just doesn't have the time or the bandwidth to communicate with these patients, right? She'll screenshot it and send it to her team. But it's an incredibly inefficient process. So what we did is we created a landing page with a chatbot on it. And the chatbot was Rona. And it would say, hey, I'm Rona. Thanks for inquiring about treatment with me. To take your inquiry further, please give me your name, email address, treatment you're interested in. Are you aware that treatment with me starts from this price, blah, blah, blah. So you send a DM to Rona. She'll send you a link. And she'll say, thank you for your interest in treatment.
And that's automated within Instagram. Like, that's an automatic thing. Yeah.
Automated now. So all anxiety's gone, right? But then what happens is the machine then filters that patient, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of these people who are messaging you off Instagram, some of them may be trying their luck and say, can I get a deal or a discount or get it free or whatever, right? And so what the machine does is it asks a bunch of questions. It then filters them into LeadFlo. They then receive a welcome email from Rona saying, hey, thanks for your inquiry. I'm looking forward to blah, blah, blah. If you would like to book a consultation with me, it's £180, blah, 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 for an assessment. There's a waiting list. And then a member of the team calls and tries to get them booked in, right? Okay. But what we've instantly done is taken that whole barrage of inquiries and the machine has filtered them into what I would call serious action takers. Yeah. So it's amazing what we can do with software, right? Either independent of CRM systems or utilizing some kind of a chatbot or something like that, that can then push that inquiry maybe to a receptionist. So maybe an easier route, even for you, Jazz, would be just to have that kind of filter, automated filter. So you never have to open your DMs, and then the patient gets filtered based on whatever price, time scale, type of treatment, right? Modality. Maybe there's a certain type of patient that comes to you with a certain type of problem, right?
Yep.
And maybe in that like filtering process, you can educate the patient and say, hey, I am for you, I'm not for you, whatever. It's really interesting that part of the journey is really, really interesting.
That's totally untapped, but all these things I'm always learning, and this is why I want to bring you on, because it's all new ideas for me, and I think lots of people listening, oh yeah, that's clever, I could do that on my Instagram. So I'm sure people have given those ideas. But if you're in a position where you're in a practice, maybe a squat, or maybe you establish practice and you think, okay, maybe you need a way to manage all this, then thanks for sharing LeadFlo. I'll put the website for LeadFlo, so that'd be good. Now the next thing I want to talk about is, okay, when you actually, the patient comes in and you actually input the patient data on the software, you chart their teeth, you do the whole consult and stuff. So what are the different softwares people are using? Now we have a very international audience in Protrusive, which is amazing. In the UK, I think the lead player is Software of Excellence.
Software
Exact.
Excellence.
Yeah, so that I don't know how much market share they have, but it's pretty big. Do I like it? Way better than R4, I think. I've only used R4 a few times, and I hated it. CareStack I've never used, but Adrian and Abby and all these guys from the States are making a big hoo-ha, which, and I from what I've seen, it seems pretty impressive. But again, as an associate, I don't know, but you've had more insight, and obviously dentally, I know you've played around with all these. I know you've liaised with all these guys. What's your take on the best software that you know of? Obviously, this might be a bit UK-centric in terms of actually patient management system.
So my answer to that question is it depends. And it depends on who you are, right? Are you an associate?
Well, you have no say then, really. You just have you can suggest.
Yeah, but if you ask the question, what's the best, right? So if you're saying to me, what's the best, right? As an associate, it's whatever makes your life easy, and it's the easiest to use, and it's what you've always known. And then it depends on what.
It's more clinical when you're an associate. It's more the clinical stuff. How easy it's to chart? How does a treatment plan look when you preview it? All the things that we use day in, day out.
Yeah. As a business owner, what I want from my dental practice management software is, okay, easy life for the associates. The clinical stuff is all sorted, fine. Reporting is really important, right? So pulling the data out that's important to me, okay? And then also opportunity mining, yeah? Being able to find opportunities within the data that comes to the surface. So look, from my experience, like I've heard that the reporting on SOE and the reporting on SOE is amazing. I've never had SOE in any of my practices, so I wouldn't know.
What do you guys use?
So we've had dentally in our practices, cloud-based
of course, yeah.
Been using it for years, is excellent, yeah. And then, just when you think that is the best thing on the market, yeah, somebody asks me to go and meet this guy from India in central London and just meet him for lunch and say, hey, come and meet Abby. And he goes, hey, Prav, how you doing? That's my Indian American accent, right? I won't carry on. I'll just embarrass myself. But anyway, I meet Abby, super passionate. And he says, I just want to show you CareStack. Didn't want anything from me, right? Didn't want me to mark nothing like that at all. He just hey, I want to show you this. So I look at it and say, hey, can CareStack find me open treatment plans that have got a value over X? He goes, what, like this? And presses 2 buttons and they're all there, and the value and all the rest of us. Man, this is brilliant, right? So anyway, without going into too much detail, I proceed to ask him about 20 similar questions, yeah? Trying to trip him up. But instead of like saying, yes, it can do this, he's a show and tell kind of guy, right? So he's literally demonstrating one after another. Then he shows me the AI that's built into it and how it's recording the patient's conversation with your conversation.
So I was there at the AI day, was presenting, and then he was there to do a demo. And so they did a thing where someone from the audience called him to pretend to be a patient. And it was cool how it was just transcribing and making it just have a nice record of that, basically.
And then what you can do with that data, right? Opportunity hunting, keyword spotting across numerous data sets. It's got to be insane, right? What you can do with that, right? It's got its own built-in dental plan provider. so you can hook it up to Go Cardless or Stripe or whatever and set up your own plan, and away you go.
Wow.
There's just so much in it.
It's a den plan killer or a practice plan killer, basically.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And I think this is the exciting thing about the software world, right? Is there's killers around the corner, right? And so I think the perfect thing, I think I saw a post from you, and maybe I'm jumping ahead here, Jazz, but I saw a post from you about digital TCO, right? Never write notes again. Take the pain away from writing notes.
So good.
So I looked at it and I thought, look, if you're waxing lyrical about this, it's got to be game changing, right? It has to be. So I signed up for the free trial, bearing in mind I'm not a clinician, right? And I start mucking about with this and I go, hey, had a patient came in, edentulous, blah, 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 recommended this, that, and the other. And then boom, it spits out this letter for me, etc. All the dental terminology is right. Patients presenting complaint. All this brings back like med school memories, whatever, right? And I'm just like, shit, man, this is good. Yeah. So then I pick up the phone and speak to you and I go, Jazz, I spoke to this thing and it did that. And it's like, Prav, you've like not even scratched the surface. You need to try jazz mode. Yeah. You need to try jazz mode. And I was just like, wow. And so that's an everything killer. Gives your nurse an easier time, I'm sure. Gives you an easier time.
Big time. So for me, the main thing was during these TMD consults or new patients, and I'm a kind of guy where if it's a one-tooth problem, I can treat and plan on the spot. I can have a nice conversation, consent and stuff. If it's anything more than a one-tooth problem, right, I can't do it. I can't just like bleh and expect them to retain it. I do a Loom video, which we'll talk about, but the whole conversation, because if you think about it, even if someone uses like an alternative like Heroku, like lots of clicking and that kind of stuff, but when it comes to actual explanation of the treatment plan, there is no set treatment plan for each individual. There's always nuances. And to capture those nuances, you still have to put your fingers to the keyboard. You still have to do it to add those little nuances. Actually, because you're getting married in 6 months, we're going to do the whitening after, blah, blah, whatever. It always has some nuances.
Of course.
This captures it in voice. So now, before notes was like very difficult for me to do, very laborious. Now I just generate and I just read and I'm smiling. And the odd time I might have to remove a word, or the odd time it might think that something like hypermobility was a cause of bruxism, which it wasn't. It just interpreted it from what I said. I just delete that. But the AI week by week is getting more clever. And so Kevin, who's the guy who made this, is a dentist actually. He's just adding all these changes in, constantly improving even the AI. Was very grateful that he made jazz mode. So I don't know if you know this. I'll just spend another minute on this before we move on. But it's a huge headache for dentists, note writing, right? And the product initially for digital TCO was like, you know how the patient leaves and then you go and type your notes and you fix it up, right? His product was, as the patient leaves, instead of typing, you're just dictating and the AI just figures it out, right? Which is cool, but I don't have to sit after patient leaves and try and remember and do that. I want it to just listen and figure it out. And that's when he created Jazz Mode. And he named it after me, which I just love. And this is the thing that's just absolutely blown me away. And there's a whole community, hundreds of us on our app, Protrusive Guidance. We've got a little space called Digital TCO Feedback. So every day we're feeding back to Kevin. He's got these live people, right? Because we've got this like half price off deal and stuff in exchange. And now week by week, he's adding a pause button here. He'd added a risk bank. So Prav, what the risk bank is, if someone mentions the trigger words, risk of root canal, okay, and they usually give their spiel, it will actually put their exact spiel, how they want it in their notes. It will just come up based on the trigger words that they said.
And is that a risk? Is that a dentist by dentist? So you can have your risk bank,
yes,
and someone else can have their risk bank, and so on and so forth.
And I think
right?
the next stage is that we can like share each other's risk banks, because as they build up, right? And we can share each other. I've been sharing templates, so my template I'm pretty happy with. It's just honestly exciting time to be in notes who don't want to click and that kind of stuff. So moving on from the different softwares available, you've spoke highly about CareStack, but if you're having problems with notes, definitely check out Digital TCO. It's been a game changer for all the colleagues that use it. And I think the next thing we should talk about then is also when I use Digital TCO, because I'm so immersed in this audio recording, I also use dental audio notes, which I have made an episode about. I'm just a big fan of recording audio anyway. I met a dentist just the other day who's actually a previous guest of the podcast, and I told him about Digital TCO and Dan and stuff, and he goes, "Oh, I haven't heard any of these, but I do audio record my consultations." And I was like, "Oh, is that right?" I was like, "How do you do that?" And he says to me, "I use a dictaphone." Okay. And then after the patient's gone, I then upload it to my computer. I move the MP3 file there. And sometimes I don't even, he actually said this, sometimes I don't even do my notes because I know that audio recording is there somewhere, buried in a file somewhere, right? So isn't this amazing that now not only have you got the audio recording, you've also got the notes there, medico-legally, very important, okay? and it's actually filed in a cloud somewhere, not actually taking hard drive space. So
can I play devil's advocate here? Yeah. Is there any situation where, because you've got that comprehensive of note, that could act against you? Do you understand the question I'm asking?
100%. I understand the question. Now, I think the question really is, for those dentists, most of us who use templates, right?
Yeah.
We often, when we set the template, we try and make the ideal template. Why would you sit down and make a crappy template? You just wouldn't. You're going to use it a lot. You're going to make a really thorough
good
template.
one.
So on that same day, I met this another young dentist, and I told her about, oh yeah, everything I'm saying, okay, it goes on there. But then she says to me, what if you forget to mention this and you need it in the notes? But I said to her, why is it fair to our patients if we're not saying the risk to them, but we're saying in our notes that we wrote the risk to them?
Yeah.
That is the sin. And so what this has done for me is it really helped me up my game, Prav. So now I work very much more in checklists. So, okay, for every time this starts, I need to make sure that these checklists I tick off. And I think it's made me a better clinician, a better communicator, because now the pressure's on. Now that I'm being audio recorded and the quality of the notes is very much reliant on my mouth, it is very, very important, right? Whereas the templates, that's where I think you get in danger. The reason I think you can't get in danger with the AI stuff, with digital TCO, is because it literally is your voice, what you've done. It isn't template. So for example, classic one, you're taking out a lower molar, but in your template, it says warned about the sinus risk, and you forgot to delete that. There's no sinus risk when you're taking a lower molar. There's no sinus there, right? So that is a danger. Whereas actually that doesn't get picked up because you didn't mention the sinus. So that's why I think you're more likely to get in danger with written templates than you can with voice.
So tell me, with your spoken stuff, do you have almost like these are the words I'm going to mention, and you have a typed out checklist that or is it all up here? So like if I'm talking about marketing, like it's all in here. Yeah. And that is very unlikely I won't mention these 10 things, for example, right? They're like baked into my brain, right? It's muscle memory, right? Is that the same with you? And is that the same with all dentists? Or is this a case of you don't know what you don't know, but your template's got your back sort of thing? And like, so is this for only certain types of dentists, or is this for everyone, right? There's some dentists out there going to think, screw that. I'm not getting all my, because I'm pretty shoddy at my stuff, right? So I'm not going to do that, right? The reason I mention that is because I'll say we've worked with clinicians. Our senior clinicians have pulled them up on their note-taking and so on and so forth. And he's created a ton of problems in the practice, right? Because the complaints come in and then you think, actually, do you know what? They didn't check this, they didn't do this. And I'm not a clinician, right? But I've been copied into communication and you think, bloody hell, like as a practice owner, if I knew how shoddy these associates were, just because they were generating money and converting aligner cases or whatever, right? The comebacks we've got to deal with now, and our principal clinician now has to put everything right, it's a nightmare, right? So as an owner, I'm thinking, I want to enforce this for everyone, right? Because then I know everything's done right. Back to that question. Yep. Are there certain clinicians who think, screw that, there's no way I'm doing this? Well,
the initial question you asked is about how do I work and have I got like essentially a checklist, right? And it's all about a checklist manifesto. I'm a big believer in that. So at the moment, because digital TCO has only entered my life 6 weeks ago, right? It's all new to me. I'm having to go back now and I'm literally just making these. I already had TMD checklists. So now I've got other checklists. So I want to make sure that I have got these written checklists that my nurse can just tick off. Because now she's not having to. Before, my nurse was just writing the notes and she was frantically, bless her, she's trying to type everything down and she's struggling. My nurse's stress levels have decreased right down. All she has to do now is just tick a few boxes and just point out, oh, by the way, Jazz, this. It was like, oh, yes, of course. By the way, we need to mention this. And now that is medico-legally foolproof. The next question was that which dentist does it suit and which dentist it doesn't? Okay, there are some dentists, Prav, you probably don't hire them, but they will do a silent exam. Like the patient comes in, the patient opens their mouth, right? And they will just do upper right 6, amalgam, upper right 2, this, upper left 6, have a look. Okay, everything looks fine, goodbye, okay? It's not for them. If you're constantly giving value to the patient, so here's what I'm doing. I'm starting off like, okay, I'm just going to check your chewing system now. I'm going to get you to bite together. Oh, look at these muscles. Okay, they're firing nicely. I'm very happy with this. I'm now going to move to your joint. Open nice and big. Okay, that's a nice healthy mouth opening there. I couldn't hear any clicking. Miss Smith, are you aware of any clicking, popping, or locking? No. Well, that's great. The data now you're feeding it, and that's me. I'm not even and the patient's always loving is, oh, wow, I'm getting, the other dentist might be checking all this stuff, but the patient is none the wiser.
Yeah. They're clueless, right? But And so when you say that, so you say, okay, I'm checking that you've got a healthy joint. Are you aware of any clicking, locking, or popping? Is digital TCO picking that piece up?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
But that's why I say it. But I always said it. I've always said it. But now I have tweaked the way I speak to try and make my notes so good that I don't have to do any typing.
See, basically, you're talking to the patient whilst talking to the machine. And you're talking machine to the patient, but you're trying to do it in a way that's humanized. Yeah.
But it's actually made for better communication, I think.
No, I get that's really cool.
So dentists
that's
who like
really
to talk and talk out loud and give value to their patients, I think they are better suited to digital TCO. But dentists who don't like to talk much, maybe some like, I don't know, Kuroku, whatever's out there, click, click, click kind of stuff, that's fine. But if you like to talk a lot and dictate, then that's for you, basically. So that's more on the note problem there is. Okay, guys, as Jazz interjecting here with a really important message. If you've been inspired to try digital TCO, join hundreds of us on our community, Protrusive Guidance, where we're actually giving feedback to Kevin. Kevin's the inventor. We did episode PDP 181 all about how to never write notes again. So if this is a kind of a software that you crave, that you need in your life, it's dirt cheap at the moment, especially with the Protrusive discount of 50%, the extended free trial, but you have to please partake in this experiment and give Kevin feedback. Actually, it's through our community that we created the risk bank and the pause feature and the ability to see if your microphone's working. All of these came from me and the Protrusive Guidance community. So if you want to get started with audio recording, check out PDP 181 and the clinical video that I added as well. But the first place to go is protrusive.co.uk/notes. That will take you to the place where you can get the extended free trial and the discount. But please do give Kevin your feedback so we can make this exactly what you want it to be. For me and my nurse, it's been absolutely the best thing we've done. Way better than anything else we tried. I've tried Heidi. I'm trying something else called Secker at the moment. I'll give you feedback on that. And so I'm constantly looking for what's out there, but nothing has beaten digital TCO so far in terms of reducing our stress, improving our notes, and making things just happier and more efficient. So check out protrusive.co.uk/notes. If that website's not working for some reason and you still want to access the discount, it's digitaltco.co.uk/protrusive. So I'll put all those notes in the show link. And yes, that is an affiliate link. So we have a small financial interest here, which helps the podcast grow. But again, if you want to pay full price, be my guest. Oh, and don't forget to check out the video where I compare two different microphones and actually like a live demo of digital TCO. Back to the episode. Loom. Now we mentioned Loom, huge one. I will regularly do Loom treatment plans. As you know, Prav, because you guys adopt this in your practices, patients watch it multiple times. Patients send it to their spouse. Patients send it to their children to read as well, to have a look. And you get multiple views on this. And I find that the more views I've had, the more likely they're going to take up the treatment. I just find that they're engaged, they're watching again, they're trying to understand. It's just brilliant. So Loom, for those who don't know, is a online software whereby you click record, it records your screen, and it records your voice. You can add your camera, your face there as well. So imagine me cycling through some photos of the patient saying, hey, Miss Smith, do you remember this tooth I showed you at the clinic? This is the one that needs the crown because this X, Y, and Z. Oh, by the way, this is an example of a crown I've done. I get a link, I send it to the patient. Once the patient watches it, I get an email to say that the patient's watched it. It's just communication like 101. And again, I hate doing long reports to my patients, like explaining it. To have that summarized in 5-minute video, right? Which the first time you do it, you mentioned this when you spoke in the communication inclusion day in September. You said the first time you do it, it might take you 20 minutes, half an hour for a 2-minute video, right? But when you get slick at it, how much time you save is just phenomenal.
Is there a medico-legal thing here? Because it came up as a question when I was talking about this at an event recently. And they said, because you're just summarizing it and you're not mentioning everything in there, is there an issue because your voice is recorded, you've sent them the video and said, but Prav didn't say this. So the way I answered that question on the spot is I just said to the delegate or the attendee of the event, look, if you're worried about that, then start your Loom by saying, hey, what I'm about to present to you is just a simplified summary of a detailed treatment plan that I have emailed to you. All the detail is within there. I've simplified it to make it easier to understand for you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
so I don't know. Like that was my piece of advice, but I said, don't take that as, hey, perhaps the medico-legal expert either, right? And because that question came up about Loom, I was just wondering, what's your thoughts on that?
I like what you said there. I think it's a really good way to put it, actually. So I'm gonna borrow that from you. I will start doing that a bit more. But essentially, consent is like an onion. There's lots of layers to it, right? So the first part, now imagine I've got digital TCO running in the background. I've explained these risks and stuff in the chair firstly. That's recorded in the notes. Even when the patient says, yes, Oh yeah, that makes sense. And that's recording digital CTO. Patient understood what he said and repeated back. So that's there, layer 1. Okay.
Wow.
Layer 2 is the loom stuff. Okay. Which fair enough. It might not cover every single detail, but layer 3 is the juice has to be worth the squeeze. So the more complex, the more risky stuff there is, that's the kind of stuff you can also follow up with the written stuff as well, right? Okay, and then the more complex it comes, you can't just rely on Loom. But the Loom, think of Loom as a fantastic communication tool, but also a conversion tool. Because when you get it is when patients get a video, it's like no one's ever done this bespoke video. Like this dentist is actually talking to me in a language that I can understand. Because guess what patients remember when they walk out the door? Nothing. They don't remember anything. They literally get so confused that this is why I love Loom.
Yeah. Do you know what analogy it brings me back to, or what situation is the first time I had my car serviced and the dude on his phone went under the car with his phone.
I had the same thing.
And showed me, hey, you know this thing here that we're charging you 200 quid for, here's the brand new one, right? Because there's no way I'm going to look under the car, right? So then I think, great, my mechanic's not ripping me off now, right? He's shown me everything he's done.
It's like the intro camera for the mechanic.
Yeah. So that blew me away, right? And so I see Loom as that, maybe providing a personalized explanation. But there's actually, so you see it as a conversion tool there, right? But it works way before that. So during the patient journey, we go back to LeadFlo. There's one email that goes out in the automation, which is, let's say the patient is not quite ready to come in for a consultation for whatever reason. So we send them an email and we say, hey, send us a selfie of your smile. I'll wave it under the dentist's nose and he'll give you some free advice. So the photograph comes in and you record a Loom for the patient. And you say, hey, and either you can do it or the TCO can do it. It just depends on what the bandwidth is there, right? But you put their picture on the screen and you say, hey, Prav, I can see you've got a crooked teeth here, blah, blah, blah. And clear aligners are going to be absolutely perfect for you. I'd like to meet Jessica. Now, Jessica came in to see us 2 years ago. And she can see she had the same problems. And we look at her side profile, those front teeth were sticking out. And we got her from here to here in 9 months. Her investment in the treatment was £3,500. And she finished off with a little bit of edge bonding and stuff, with a little bit more of investment. I'm really looking forward to meeting you. Come in for a consultation, come and meet us, blah, blah, blah. That is another applicable use of Loom. Again, as you said,
it's a personal touch like no other.
It's a conversion tool, right?
It is.
It is an amazing conversion tool. Now, the piece about them watching it and watching it multiple times, when they watch it, do you act upon that or do you just use it as data?
At the moment, I'll be honest, I'm so busy that they watch it. I get the email basically. And more than often than not, they end up booking my diary for the treatment and it goes ahead, right? But if I had a lovely funnel set up and I had if we had a treatment coordinator and stuff, they could totally be using that data. They could see how much of it they watched. We can learn about, where they stopped watching, why they stopped watching. There's so much data you can get from that.
And so we just use it as a prompt for the TCO to follow the patient and say, hey, I saw
that you watched the video. What did you think? Absolutely.
Yeah. I saw you watch the video with Dr. Jazz, blah, blah, blah. Is there anything that didn't make sense? Any more detail that you want? Would you like to come back in? There's just, there's a reason to follow up. Yeah. So once again, even on its own without that piece, it's a conversion tool. It's a great tool for your TCOs as well.
You also use it for managing your teams. I use it for managing my teams. We've cut down team meetings. I hate team meetings. So very much send them a Loom. This is how you do it. Can you crack on kind of thing. So just want to mention that if you have a team, it's great to use for that. Now you mentioned about when you have that quick ones that, by the way, lead who's not a patient yet. I had a look at your smile, blah, blah, that kind of Loom. I want you now to check out SmileCloud. So while if you just share your screen, share your browser, go Google SmileCloud, right? And while you're Googling this, mate, remember that software you told me about on Android, iOS, the one that you take a photo and then it gives them an instant smile, a quick little preview. What was it called again? Literally got like a mind blank.
It's on, you can get it on iOS as well.
Yeah, iOS, Android. I'm looking at my phone now for it.
I'm looking on my phone.
I even paid for it and I use it now and again. Airbrush.
Yeah. I talk about it a lot.
I know, me too, right? After you. Okay, and so there we are. Like, this is the kind of time it is now, right? Oh my God, it's 10:40. Okay, so Airbrush, so brilliant stuff, right? So really, really quick.
Yeah.
Now just have a look at SmileCloud.
All right.
And just share your screen. Now, for those listening on Spotify and Apple, don't worry, we'll not alienate you. We're going to describe it. But for those who are watching on YouTube, they get to kind of see live as like Prav's first reactions, if you like.
Smile design collaboration, right?
This is the one. So my buddy Ricky Bhopal, prosthodontist, told me about this. So just scroll down. So essentially, guys, what this is you know that the thing about instant smile preview, that kind of stuff. It is like that to the next level. So even with the airbrush, it is a bit rudimentary. It can mess up sometimes. The skins that you have on this, the different smile features. But then actually, once you've got that smile, you can export this. And when you export it, you can actually get like some sort of functional mock-up to try on the patient. You can actually use this data, export it into like ExoCAD and stuff, so the labs can use it as well. So it is absolutely brilliant. Like you send the lab the preview of their smile, and you based on the style that you like, and then you tell the lab, please download this library of teeth, which I used in the smile makeover, and I think this is very photorealistic, but smile preview. So Smile Cloud has comes highly recommended. I haven't used it yet, but because you mentioned that whole thing about
I was going to ask, have you haven't had a play with this? Is this something that you can use in the chair, or?
I think so. I think it's very quick. That's what Ricky told me. It's very, very quick. Now, if you want to take it to the next level and export some of the data sent to lab, but it is very, very quick. I mean, look how seamlessly the people are clicking and changing the proportions of the teeth and stuff, and they look really photorealistic. You could download these unique natural libraries. So I'm only mentioning this because you mentioned about the ability to show them. So imagine you illume them now, and you've now got a photo of them, and now you can quickly just cycle through a few different smiles as well. So Smile Cloud comes highly recommended from my friend Dr. Ricky Bhopal. And had a look at their pricing. It's bloody cheap.
How much is it?
It's like 20 quid a month, mate, for 120 cases. That's bloody good. That's really, really good.
I think it's a Straumann product, but I might be completely wrong.
Okay. Even Joe Rogan gets it wrong sometimes. It's cool.
Or that they invested in it or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm. Well, it doesn't really matter what product it is. Really, it looks amazing. I'd love to just play around with this now that you've mentioned. You
can do like a free trial, so I'm gonna give that a go. But I just want to share with the Protrusive what I'm thinking at the moment in terms of these ways to communicate with patients, different smile previews, if you like. So that was very promising there. The other one that's quite promising for patient communication is chairside. So chairside is like video animations with a click of a button that you can show to the patient. So I'm a big fan. I'm quite old-fashioned. I'm a big fan of the whiteboard and pen and drawing stuff for patients, right? This is that on like major steroids, and like they've thought of every single scenario. Now, you've been speaking to Loven. I've seen it live demo before. What is your take on chairside?
So, look, I don't know enough about it yet, but Loven and Co have just engaged us to do their sort of like maybe like a brand strategy piece for them and just a repositioning piece for chairside, right? What I do know about chairside is their mission and their values as a company. Yeah, their whole piece is not about the clinician, but it's about impacting and educating patients so that they understand things better, right? Mm-hmm. I think definitely it's a conversion tool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely it's a conversion tool. You can see their animations. They've invested so much of this in terms of time, energy, money, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, look, if I was a clinician, like everything we've discussed today, including these jaw-dropping animations, chairside that we can show the patients, and we talk about these perio pockets and you show them what the pocket looks like and all the rest of it, right? And in these animations, right? The Loom videos, the digital TCO. In my mind, if you're not embracing all of this, I think it's absolutely balmy. Mm-hmm. I think it's crazy not to, because every single one of these, the chairside tool with the animations, right? The digital TCO, the LeadFlo piece, the Loom videos, all of them, right? Let's forget about the money and the conversion and conversion rates and marketing and sales and all the rest of it. They deliver a better patient experience. Mm-hmm. The fact that you are now, as a clinician, talking more to the patient and the machine, the patient's getting more value out of you. Mm-hmm. So the patient experience is better. If you're sending Loom videos pre and post treatment plan, the patient experience is better. If you're showing these animations on chairside and the patient now understands what a root canal is, the patient experience is better. Yeah. So even if that's all you want, and every dentist should want this, it's absolutely balmy not to embrace it all.
I think the whole Smile Cloud thing is more like getting the patient to visualize the outcome. I was going to make a joke that imagine you had not chairside, but imagine way back when you had a hairside. And you can like, And like an explanation of what actually happens in animation form. You never know. Maybe you would have converted. Yeah. All right. There's a 32% chance, right? That's the joke of the day, right? I won that one. Okay. So that's like a process. So Chairside is process centered. Smart Cloud is outcome centered. But here's what I loved about Chairside. Again, I don't use this. I have no affiliation with them, but I did demo it one day when doing an AI talk. And what I love is when the patient gets an email, you kind of select which animations you want to send them, right? You may have shown them in the clinic as well. This was the magic thing for me. They get an email and then they say, okay, this looks great. Let me book my appointment. I would like to book my appointment. Or actually, I need more time to think. Or actually, I've got some more questions. And they get to select that and they get to keep the conversation going. Or they get to just accept the treatment plan then and there. That for me was really cool.
Yeah, it's a sales tool. It's a thing, and then is there a consent piece where if they've watched a certain amount of that video you've sent them or whatever, is there a piece in that where...
I don't know exactly about what percentage they watch and whatnot. It probably is, but again, the whole element of consent, the fact that they've had to watch it and you get proof that they watched it is also for consent. So you're right. So Chairside I was very impressed with. Would I invest in it as an associate? Not yet. If my practice got it, I'd be really chuffed. Do you see what I mean? Like if my principal said to me, guys, we're using Chairside, I'd be like, yeah, this is great. I can totally implement this in my clinic and looks really good. The other one is Pearl. Pearl is for radiographs. Can you just head over to Pearl website? So Pearl is for radiographs. It basically, I love their slogan, their ads and stuff. It's your radiographs, but now in color. Because so often I'm pointing to we got this big giant Samsung screen.
What's the URL? It's not Pearl.
Maybe it's Pearl. I don't know. Maybe Google it.
Pearl.
All right, sweet.
This is
so
it.
Pearl, like so many times I've been there, we've got this massive Samsung screen. I'm showing the patient their bite wings. Like, okay, well, this is your wisdom tooth. And do you see this little smudge over here? Right there. Yeah, that's tooth decay. And they're like, really? I mean, I remember being a dental student and looking at these radiographs saying, I can't see shit. Okay. And so patients are thinking that like, okay, I'll take his word for it because I can't see shit. When you put them in color, wow, like suddenly that, oh yeah, okay, he's not BSing. I can actually see there's something there. So that's pretty cool. I like it as well. Again, would I be investing as an associate? Maybe not. But if my principal said to me that, guys, we're all going to start using Pearl, I'd be like all over it. So that was the best radiographic thing I've seen in terms of AI and also a communication tool.
So when you say, on 2 occasions, you've now said, would I be investing as an associate? Probably not. Yeah. Why?
Okay. So there are some things, okay, that you kind of expect the principal to buy, but then they're so good sometimes that if your principal won't buy it, you'll buy it yourself, right? So many things I bought myself, right? A lot of things, far too many things, right? When it comes to software, like the digital TCO, the practice don't pay for it, I pay for it. Okay. So I pay for that because it just makes my life easier and I get time out of that. Okay. When you look at the fees, they're upwards of £200-300 for an associate to fit that kind of bill, right? For software, like if you're gonna be using it every day and you're absolutely in love with it, I think you can. Yeah. I think you can totally justify it. Will you make your money back? I think you know what, you probably will as well. But I think if a practice as a business buys it and then gives licenses to all the associates, that's probably the more accepted model. So it's probably the principals that usually seek that purchase and then give it to their associates. I just wouldn't because the way I'm working is working for me. I would love it as a Brucey bonus if my practice said, hey guys, we've just invested in Pearl. I'd be like, yes, that's so cool kind of thing. So that's where I'm coming from. Do I think can it be a return on investment as an associate? I think it can, but it might be with the expense level, it might be pushing it a bit.
So your message really is like, for me as a practice owner, if I want to give value to my associates, then by investing in, let's say, a Pearl license for the team or a Chairside license for the team or whatever, as a practice owner, is seen, or you would at least see it as a Brucey bonus. Oh, this is great. I've got access to this or whatever, right? I'm going to use it.
Yes. Yeah, but you know, I would say, and you've been in this situation, I would say if you're a practice principal, have a practice meeting with all your associates and show them and make them come up with the idea, say, can I get it? Rather than you imposing it on them, because then it won't get used. But if it's their idea saying, oh, can we get Pearl? Then it'll get used, right? You've been there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even if it's your idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Pearl's been super impressive in that regard. And those are the main ones I wanted to talk about today. The only thing I want to borrow some more expertise from you is the whole Google reviews thing. So let's say you've done the whole Pearl Chairside, patients have the treatment, you've done these wonderful letters and looms and that kind of stuff, you use digital TCO, you got the bum in the seat using LeadFlo, for example, the whole circle. What's your recommended software, if any, for collecting reviews? Because at the moment, in the practice, we're using something called I think it's reputation, maybe? Is that one?
Yeah, but doesn't that collect some other sort of reviews, or do you know what?
It doesn't go on Google. It goes on like a work. No, we use working feedback. We use working feedback.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, I'm not. Look, I don't know who working feedback is, but I'm not a fan, right? And it's because look, any reviews is better than none. So I'm being hypercritical here, right? But for me, the reviews on Google carry more weight on bringing in new business, helps with your Google local rankings so that you appear more visible in search. So for me, Google reviews are the holy grail, right?
Yep.
One of the things that we do baked into the LeadFlo software is at the end of treatment, right? We send out a request for a review via email, right? And also you can trigger it via SMS. The conversion rate via SMS is so much higher.
Yeah.
So much higher. Because you send them the link that takes them to your profile for the Google review. So as soon as they get the SMS and they click on that link, boom, straight there, click your stars, write your review. It's a little bit like the QR code thing I do when I give lectures, right? So whenever I give a talk somewhere, right at the end, I say, right, guys, what I'd love you all to do now, I'd like you to do me a favor. I'd like you to hold your phones up, turn the camera on, and then I change the slide to my QR code and say, just snap this code and just write in the next slide what you got out of today, right? And it's a great way of getting like 30 Google reviews in one hit. But it's the same thing, the same link that QR code takes you to, you can send in a text message to a patient and you will elevate reviews. So I've not used, and there's tons of software out there, get5stars.com and so on and so forth that manages it. There are also companies out there who will dial into your SOE and say, of all the patients who came in the last X, Y, and Z, ask them for a Google review. But the interesting thing here when it comes to asking for Google reviews, a lot of practices think it's just for patients who've completed fancy pants treatment, right? But it's not. It's for bloody everyone, right? Even the patient who's come in for their 55th hygiene at your practice. It's for everyone. Yep. And so we should be asking everyone, right? And whether that's a request that goes out via mass text, mass WhatsApp, email, or whatever, or you use one of these pieces of software. If you use LeadFlo, it's baked into that anyway. But I don't think LeadFlo is necessarily the best tool for doing that because...
But it's baked in, like you said, and you thought about that. You've been mindful of that in development and stuff. But okay. Yeah,
but actually, I was in a practice yesterday and we were talking about sort of SMS and WhatsApp communication with patients and stuff. The TCO was saying to me, what's working really well for Google reviews is just sending the patient a WhatsApp with the link and they do it there and then and respond and say done.
As in like there and then like at the clinic? No, just okay.
No,
fine.
Just
quite quick to respond.
Quite quick to respond. Yeah.
Got it. So I like that. I think just sending your existing patient base a WhatsApp as a means of communication. I like that because we're too reliant in our practice on email for that. So I think text agree that it goes up, and then WhatsApp I think is a real gem there actually.
Yeah, open rates are far higher than. So there's two things when it comes to email and SMS or messaging communication. Number one is deliverability, and number two is open rates, right? And so if I send an email to 1,000 people, I'm not necessarily going to hit 1,000 inboxes, right? I'm going to hit some filtered spam, archive, this, that, and the other, and some inboxes. If I send 1,000 SMSs, I'm on your phone. If you've got notifications on, I'm on your front screen, and the open rate is insane in comparison. Yeah.
Totally.
So whenever we do campaigns for new clients, right, and they say, hey, I want to get a truckload of implants through the door, some ortho, I ask them about their existing data first. I said, let's go mining for some gold first in your practice, because they've got pots of gold sat in your practice. So show me all the inquiries that came in 90 plus days ago. Let's go back 5 years and send them a single text message and let's go hunting. Because before going for fresh blood on Google or Facebook ads and spending thousands on there, there's so much value in them. I always say I can walk into any practice and extract value out of the data. I'm so confident about that.
Well, talking of fresh blood, let's end on just telling us about the fresh, about everything you do. How can we reach out to you? How can we learn more from you? And also about LeadFlo. Again, all these things we talk about, I'll put links in there. So for LeadFlo, Loom, Digital TCO, all the things, Pearl, Chairside, I'll put there so that everyone can access it. But just tell us about how to learn more from you and all the things that you guys do.
I think the best way to, if anyone wants to connect, the best way to connect is just go to prav.com, because all roads will lead to the same path, right? Whatever you're interested in, go to prav.com. I offer complimentary discovery call. You can jump on there and we can talk about anything to do with growth of your business, whatever that is, whether it's a practice, whether it's you as an associate, clinician, or a dental business, right? So we work with everyone, and we do everything from sort of branding to consultancy to actual software development for some businesses. But the overall aim, when we sat down and did our brand values, right? And we said, well, what's our mission? What we trying to do? And we came up with this concept, which is freedom for dental professionals, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we that's what we're trying to create, right? And that freedom can be in many ways. So some clients come to us and they want freedom, and freedom comes in a monetary format. For some people, freedom comes in, I want to do less clinical days. Do you know what I mean? Business growth, whatever that piece is that's what we're focused on. So yeah.
Amazing. Prav Solanki, PS, he's a good guy to know. I always love your tagline. Actually, I need a cool one. So Prav, thanks for making time, brother. I really appreciate it.
No,
I think you gave
Jess.
a lot of value. Talked a lot of things. I learned a lot of things actually today about the whole thing about the landline versus the mobile. That was like an eye opener, and various other things that you shared with us today. So again, I will summarize it all. This is a very rare, different type of CPD today. So learning about the different softwares and stuff. So that'll be eligible for CPD as well. So Prav, thanks so much, my friend. Thank you.
Peace, brother. Thank you.
Well, there we have it, guys. Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. There was a lot of substance in there and lots of business, financial education from Prav. And so this episode is eligible for CPD. If you're a Protrusive member on Protrusive Guidance and you're a paid plan, you can get CPD through this episode by answering a few questions. If you want to talk about software that you've been enjoying, please comment below. Let us all know which other softwares are out there that we should know about. And maybe in next year's review, we could talk about some new softwares. Very exciting space, always developing. There's probably two more softwares which we didn't get a chance to talk about. One is a dental audio note. So as well as using digital TCO to actually do the AI and the note building, I'm still using dental audio notes, which is like its own software on my MacBook or on the computer, which is like a standalone software. And that's also doing the audio recording. I just like to have a backup, because if I'm going all in and relying on audio for my notes, I don't want to just rely on one source. I want two sources, but that's just me. And I also have a soft spot because Alla and Adam, who run Dan, are just so lovely. And Alla's a Protrusive, and they were on the podcast, and I just love their software. It's so clean. I have no financial interest, but do check out Dental Audio Notes. If you're getting serious about the whole audio recording, digital TCO, I would complimentary run it with Dental Audio Notes. And all these subscriptions are still very, very well priced, and they're tax deductible. The next one, which I've talked about some while ago, is with my friend George Andre Cardoso. It's his software. It's called Make Me Clear. I think this was episode 49, how to write crystal clear treatment plans. So this actually requires a bit of work. You have to put the images in, and you have to select which conditions they have. You have to put a charting. But for the bigger cases, I find that Make Me Clear makes a really nice and beautiful PDF or a printout that you can give to your patient. So I've yet to find a software that makes something so nice. Now, it requires a lot more work. It's not like digital TCO or just the AI will figure it all out. There's a bit of work involved. But for the bigger value cases, I think Make Me Clear is a really good software. If you like the idea of that, check out the episode PDP 049 to learn more about how Make Me Clear works. And then we have a Protrusive coupon code for that for you. I think the conclusion is that it's very exciting. All these softwares are great, but if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. So pick something, make a change. I know it's overwhelming to make too many changes at once, but maybe find all those softwares that we discussed. Which is your pain area? Is patient communication a real struggle for you? Then maybe Chairside might be something for you to try. If radiographs are an issue for you, then as a practice, maybe consider doing a trial of Pearl. If you are struggling to manage your leads and you want to be more business savvy, then maybe check out LeadFlo. And of course, if you want to solve all your issues with notes, you want to check out digital TCO, etc. So find something you like from this episode, and one thing at a time, run with it. Wishing you all the best. I'll catch you same time, same place next week. Bye for now.